Hello, and welcome to the Power BI October 2022 update. In this video, we'll explore what's new this month and see some demos of the highlights. We have some exciting new updates for you in the reporting section. First, you can now reverse the order in which stack charts render their series in their legend groups. Right now, in stack column charts, we draw column segments from the zero line upwards, so you'll just get the last category in your legend at the top of each column. But if you include a vertically aligned legend, like on the side of your visual, the first category on your list will be at the top and the last will be at the bottom. This can lead to the feeling that their orders are reversed. To help address this, you'll now find a new formatting pane option to reverse the stack order of your stack column and bar, area, ribbon, and combo charts. Next, we've made a few query performance improvements to help speed up your reports. First, we're building indexes on imported string columns to improve the query performance of substring searches. We build the index when the first query that requests a substring search on a column is executed. This index is only built for text columns that contain ASCII characters. Once the index is built, substring search becomes instant. Keep in mind that the index is not persisted between restarts of Power BI Desktop. We're also going to push top-end filters to direct query sources whenever possible. Up until now, when using the top-end function or a top-end filter on a column from a direct query source, all values of the column will be retrieved and then the top-end filter will be applied within the DAX engine. Now we're pushing the top-end filters to direct query sources wherever we can. When the top-end filter is based on a measure, the measure has to be based on an aggregation, like sum, min, max, count rows, or distinct count. Next, we've made even more updates to Power BI Metrics. This month, we've added roll-ups for current and target values and the Get Scorecard admin API. Let's start with roll-ups. Previously in Metrics, there was no way to automatically aggregate a group of sub-metric values to the parent metric value. You can work around aggregations by connecting values to data, but before this month, there was no way to auto-roll up manual values. All non-connected metrics required check-ins to update the values. Now, with this release of current and target roll-ups, you have the ability to set an automatic aggregation of your sub-metrics to show in your parent metric. You can select from a few aggregation types: sum, average, min, and max values. Whichever aggregation you choose will automatically update the metric type along with the value to show the correct aggregation value of its direct submetrics. Rollups work on connected values as well. If your submetrics are connected to data, we will take the aggregation of those values and show it in the parent metric. This makes it easier than ever to stay on top of your manual parent metrics. We're also releasing a new admin API that will help with many administrative tasks and examining the state of existing scorecards. This new Get Scorecard API is enabled for admins in Power BI and will retrieve all scorecards within an organization. This API will retrieve scorecard metadata as well as metadata for each metric on the scorecards. Next, in the analytics section, we're introducing an experimental feature called Quick Measure Suggestions. A few years ago, Power BI released a feature called Quick Measures to allow desktop users to create DAX measures using a built-in template rather than writing DAX from scratch. Now, we're augmenting that with Quick Measure Suggestions, a new way to assist creation of DAX measures using natural language rather than templates. Sujata will show us a demo of this feature.
Quick Measures was designed to help users create new DAX measures through a template-like approach. What the user would do is they would choose from one of our many templates, and then once they had the template they wanted, they would just simply populate in the data for each bucket and then click Add to add it to their model. And now in this release, we're adding a new way to create a quick measure, and that's through our natural language suggestions. So the way that works is that you'll type in natural language the measure that you're trying to create, and then you'll be able to see suggestions generated for you. So let's try a few examples. I'll go ahead and start by saying I want to look at UK sales, and I want to specifically see it for, let's say, the year 2021. So once I type in my input, I just simply hit enter, And then you'll see that several measures were generated for me. And the really important thing to note here is that our suggestions can be wrong. And so it's really important that you take the time to look at the full DAX to evaluate that it matches your intent. So as you can see, this feature is not meant to be a replacement for learning DAX because you still need to make sure that our suggestions match what you're looking for. So in this case here, you can see that we're using the sales measure, which is correct. And then we're filtering it to country as UK as well as the year being 2021. And so this does match my intent. But as you'll notice, there's other suggestions which actually don't match my intent. And that's because 2021 was actually mapped to multiple things in my data set, not just the year. And so let's go ahead and add the correct one to the measure. Now let's try a few more examples. So let's do a little bit more complex ones with maybe some aggregates per category. So let's do average sales per country, and then we'll hit enter. And so if you see here, yep, this is doing what I would expect here, which is the average X function, and it's doing it for the values within country, and it's computing the sales. So this does match my intent. Let's try now some time intelligence scenarios. Let's do 28-day rolling average, and let's do it for profit. And as you may be noticing, I'm able to do a lot of abbreviated forms where you saw that I wasn't fully typing out average, and then in this case, I'm also not fully typing out days. And the natural language approach allows for a lot of that diversity in how you may want to type. So you don't have to fully type out everything if you don't want. And so that really just makes it a lot more convenient to just quickly create your measure. So let's go ahead and type this out. Another thing that you notice is that in this case for profit, it's actually a column, but I've not specified the aggregation. But our suggestions are smart enough to know to use the default aggregation when it's not been specified. And so as you can see here, it is computing exactly the sum of profit, which I would expect, and it's doing it based on a rolling 28-day average window. And so if I'm happy with this, I can go ahead again and add it directly to the model. So let's add a few more measure scenarios. Let's look at now, let's do year to date, and let's do it for profit again. Oops, profit, and hit enter. And we can see here, yep, it got that suggestion correct. And let's try a few more. How about in scenarios where you maybe want to create, a conditional text? Maybe you want to use if conditions, and maybe you want that condition to be based on whether a selected value for a field is not empty. And so what you can do here is you can say if selected country is empty, then we'll return a string. And so in order to specify that you want to use a string, you'll need to use double quotes. So we can say select country. So that's going to use our quote as what we want to tell to the user if they've not yet selected a country or if what the country you've selected is empty. And then if it's not empty, we can just put our else statement here, which in this case would be the selected country. And we can hit enter. See here, so here we always again want to double check, and it is checking if it's blank, and then it's checking for the selected value if it's blank, and if it is, it's returning selected country, which string I had, otherwise it's returning the selected value. So that does match my intent. So now let's try a few more. How about some top end scenarios? So how about we want to get what are the top countries in terms of profit? So we can do top 3 countries based on profit, and then hit enter. And so in this case, we are returning actually a string value because we're getting a list of the top 3 countries. As you know, this is a measure, it's not generating a visual, so it will always return it as a string here. And so let's take a look at the DAX. And as you can see, this DAX is a bit more complex, so you really do want to make sure that you're taking the time to validate that it's matching your intent. So let's try one more as our final example. Let's do here sales for the top 3 countries. And so this one, instead of, returning the countries itself, it's getting sales and then filtering it to the top 3. So you're basically doing a top 3 for that measure based on country, and then doing a SumX for those values. We were successfully able to create quite a bit of measures, and we really hope that this feature will allow you to also create measures that you're looking for, and do so with so much more ease than before. But as a reminder, it's really not meant to be a replacement for learning DAX, unfortunately. So you still do need to learn it, because otherwise you won't be able to validate that our suggestions are correct. So thanks again for taking time to watch the video. Since the feature is in preview, we highly recommend any feedback that you have, as we will be making changes and improvements as we go.
We also have a few updates for you in the modeling section. First, you can now quickly edit relationships in the Properties pane. In the modeling view, you can expand the Properties pane and simply click on the relationship line to see all of the relationship options. This new experience sends minimal queries by having no data preview and validating only when you apply changes. Zoe will take us through a demo of this new capability.
I'm very excited to show you a new relationship editing experience in Power BI Desktop. Here you can see that I am in the model view of Power BI Desktop. I have my model, and it has a number of relationships. I can edit any of these relationships by double-clicking on the relationship line or going to Manage Relationships, but I'm going to show you an additional way that you can now edit these relationships by simply clicking on the line and seeing all the relationship options over here in the Properties pane. Here I can go ahead and change the table or the column, cardinality, make relationship active or inactive, and the cross-filter direction, all from the Properties pane. There are a number of query reduction benefits for those of you in big data scenarios, where now I no longer am showing the data preview of both of these tables, and every time I go ahead and make a change, it is not validated as I'm clicking. It waits until I click Apply Changes, and then it applies validation and applies it to the model. Another benefit of having it in the Properties pane is I can now multi-select relationships by holding down the Control key and make bulk updates. So here I can make all 4 of those relationships inactive in one transaction, and again make them active and again in a single transaction. Finally, another benefit of multi-select here in the model view is that I can hit the delete key and be prompted to delete multiple relationships in one transaction. I can click yes to continue to delete them, or I can hit cancel to back out. Please let us know what you think of this new relationship editing experience. Thank you.
Next, we brought the DAX formula bar to the desktop model view. You can now create and edit measures, calculated columns, and calculated tables in the model view on desktop. Emily will show us a demo.
We are excited to announce a new capability in the model view on Power BI Desktop. You can now create and edit DAX measures, calculated columns, and calculated tables in the desktop model view. Previously, the DAX formula bar was only supported in report and data views. Now it is also supported in the model view. I will do a quick demo of creating a new DAX measure in the model view on Power BI Desktop. So here, I will click New Measure in the ribbon, and then I will add my desired DAX expression and click Enter. And as you see, this has successfully created this new measure under my desired table in the model view in Power BI Desktop.
Next, we have a variety of updates for you in the data connectivity and preparation section. First, we're introducing AAD-based filtration for Power BI Datamarts. Back in May, we announced the public preview of Datamarts. which provide a user-friendly means to ingest data from different data sources, ETL the data using Power Query, and load it into a fully managed Azure SQL database. Based on feedback from our customers, we're very pleased to announce the introduction of AAD-based filtration to the Power BI Datamarts preview tenant setting, enabling Power BI service admins to limit the ability to create data marts to certain groups or individuals. Data mart configuration settings can be accessed via the Tenant Settings tab in the Power BI admin portal. Next, the Eduframe Reporting connector has been updated to add custom fields to program editors, plan courses and orders, and to fix an issue where changing language no longer breaks decimal and currency parsing. Next, we're excited to announce the release of the new Socialbakers Metrics connector. Integrating social media insights along with the rest of your marketing or business intelligence data gives you a holistic understanding of your entire digital strategy all in one place. With the Socialbakers Power BI connector by Amplify, you'll be able to include social media data from the Amplify platform in your charts and graphs and combine them with other data you own. Moving on, we have some great new updates in the service section. First, Azure Active Directory B2B guest users can now create their own email subscriptions in Power BI. Email subscriptions make it easy to stay on top of your most important reports and dashboards by receiving a snapshot in your inbox at customizable frequencies. Instead of requiring users in your organization to create subscriptions on behalf of guest users, we're now empowering guest users to create their own subscriptions for Power BI reports, dashboards, and paginated reports they have access to. The requirement for a guest user to subscribe themselves to content are the same as for any user. Either they'll need a Power BI Pro or Power BI Premium per user license, or the workspace where the content is saved must be backed by premium capacity. For now, guest users can only subscribe themselves, not others. Next, starting this release, we're introducing multiple options to download a report.PBIX file. While downloading the report.PBIX file, you'll see a dialog asking whether you'd like to download the PBIX with a copy of your data or a live connection to your data online. Both are PBIX files, but the option to choose where the report is getting the data will help make sure the PBIX you download matches the use case you have in mind for it. Of course, sometimes only one option will be available. In those situations, you'll see the other option as disabled, with a tooltip explaining why that option isn't available. We're also introducing a tenant setting for email subscriptions to external users. As we mentioned, if your report or dashboard is hosted in a premium capacity, you can include external users as recipients to your email subscriptions. To help control who has access to this capability, we're introducing a tenant setting to control whether or not email subscriptions can be sent to external users. You can find this setting in the Tenant Settings tab of the Power BI admin portal. Next, we're excited to announce Deployments History. Deployments History is a new feature of deployment pipelines available today. With this feature, all of your recent months' deployments are available to be reviewed, providing details on the target environment, the person who ran the deployment items, the deployment notes, and more. We've also added the option to add a note as part of the deployment process. This note appears next to its deployment history record and assists with providing context when you review past deployments. This note is not editable. The deployment history page can be accessed through either a general entry point, a new deployment history button, or through deployment history clickable icon of the deployment stage. Next, following our last announcement in January of launching Azure DevOps extensions, today we are excited to share that this feature is generally available. As stated, ADO extension contains all the API operations available today for deployment pipelines so they can be used with Azure pipelines, while integrating additional capabilities into the release process such as automated testing, approvals, and more. We've also changed our Update REST API to exclude the action of adding new deployed items to the app following the release of our public preview of multiple audiences in Power BI apps. Next, we have a few cool new features for you in the developer section. First, Power BI Custom Visuals now support the new formatting pane. With version 5.1 of the Custom Visuals API, developers can now define modern format pane cards, subcategories, and new properties on their custom visuals using the new Get Formatting Model API. The new API is a replacement for the old Enumerate Object Instances API. Version 5.1 also introduces a new Identity Filter API. This API allows you to create a visual that can filter categorical data. In other words, it filters the data by data points rather than mathematical expressions. We're also adding a new option to the Subtotal API. The Row Subtotals type option allows the visual to fetch subtotal data on top before the rest of the data, or bottom after all the data was fetched. And lastly, we've added a new sorting option to custom visuals. Right now, you have the two options, default and implicit. This month, we've added the custom sort option to give you more control over sorting options, such as sorting by multiple fields. We have several new and updated visuals for you in the visualization section. New visuals available to you on AppSource this month include the KPI circle card, the Plotly waterfall chart, and the text search slicer. Updated visuals include Zebra BI Table 6.0, the Info Driver Enterprise SaaS Edition, the Power Gantt chart, and the Drill Down Network Pro visual. You can find all of these visuals and more online on AppSource. And that's all for this month. As always, we hope you enjoyed the updates, and please keep sending us feedback on what you'd like to see in the upcoming releases. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.